In this video, we're going to look at topic 67, example 3, where we use a table to solve an equation. So in this video, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail with how to use the graphing calculator, how to use the graphing calculator to come up with some tables, and use the tables to plot specific graphs, and also to use the tables how to find approximate solutions. So let's get started with that. So the question, or they tell us to sketch the graphs of y equals x squared minus 4x plus 1 and y equals x minus 2. Identify the points of intersection to find the initial estimates of the solution values. All right, so I'm going to go to my y equals, and I'm going to keep color coded. Again, I know yours is in black and white, but you can just kind of follow along. So for y2, since that one's red, I'm going to type in my x squared minus 4x plus 1. All right, now that I've had that typed in, what I can do is to come up with specific points rather than just try to plug things in and do all the work by hand. What I'm going to do is I'm then going to hit second, and then I'm going to hit the graph button. That'll bring me to a table. And now what I have here is I have a bunch of coordinate points that match up. So for x, when x is 0, y is 1. So that tells me that I have the point 0, 1 on my graph. So I'm going to plot that. And what I'm looking to do here is I'm trying to find a series of points that give me the curve of my parabola. So 1, negative 2. I have 2, negative 3. So I'm just going to keep plotting these. 3, negative 2. All right, so I now have the curve. I found my vertex, or what is most likely my vertex. And I can build kind of the shape of this. And then, so I'm at 4, 4, 1, 5, 6. So that's going to be off the graph. So this is good. This will give me the shape. So I'm going to try to connect these dots here. Will look something like that. So obviously that was a bit more detail than when we went back to examples 1 and 2, where we were just kind of eyeballing it. You could have done the same thing on examples 1 or 2, but I was just trying to introduce using calculators. So now we're going to get into the detail. All right, so now that I have this red one, right, my parabola, I also need to graph the y equals x minus 2. So I'm going to go back to my y equals, and for y1, in this case, that blue one, I'm going to type in x minus 2. And if I go back to my table, so I'm going to hit second and then hit graph, and it'll bring my table. Notice that the y1 values, I'm going to use those for the blue line. All right. Again, your calculators are in just in black and white, so do make sure that you're very aware of on your y equals, which one is y1, which one is y2. All right, you can enter them one at a time. You'll need to, delete things and clear things out and then re-enter them. But if you want to do that, you can. All right, so I'm going to go back to my table. Remember, hit second and then table. All right, so the y1 values, we're going to do those in blue. I have 0, negative 2, so that's going to be here. I have 1, negative 1, so that'll be right here. 2, 0, 3, 1. And if I keep going, it's going to be pretty clear where the rest of my line goes. But we'll have 4, 2, 5, 3, 6, 4. And now if I wanted the other points, all I need to do is just hit the up arrow and I can scroll. So if I wanted negative 1, I could find negative 1, negative 3, and I can find negative 2, negative 4. All right, so anytime that you're looking for more numbers, you do have the ability to scroll. I'll also show you how to change that, if you're dealing with much larger numbers that aren't close to 0. Okay, so we have our graph. We've got our blue linear function, and then in red we have our parabola or quadratic. So now we're looking for the solutions, right? We want to find the points of intersection. Now, those would be right here and right here. Now, clearly those points are not right on the grid, right? It's not like 1, negative 1. It's not 4, 2. It's somewhere in between. So we're again going to use the calculator and the features of the calculator to find approximate solutions. And then in example 4, I'll show you how to find exact solutions. To make sure that your graph is accurate, do yourself a favor and just hit the graph button. Remember, this window is the window that we used for the last problem, so this isn't helping us. One of the best things you can learn how to do is change your window. So you want to hit, in this case, instead of changing the window, I'm actually going to hit zoom, and then number 6, where it says Z standard, that gives you a 10 by 10, so it goes, or really 20 by 20. It gives you 10 integers, or the grid goes 10 points or units in each direction. So it would go from 0 to 10 positive and negative. Select option 6 or hit enter, and now we can see that our graph looks pretty similar to what we have drawn here. Okay, so I need to find my solutions. All right, and to do that, what I know is that this point here, so let this one right here, that is between x equals 0 and x equals 1, right? It's somewhere in between this point here and here. So what I need to do is I need to figure out where it is. All right, and to do that, it's not too bad. What you're going to do now is you're going to hit second, and we're going to change our table values. So I'm going to hit second window, which will bring me to my table set. All right, and this is kind of like the window in the previous video where we had to put the starting and ending points. Well, I want to start, I'm going to say at 1. All right, because I know my answer is somewhere between 0 and 1, so I want to be around there. But instead of leaving the change in the table, that little triangle represents change. If I leave that as 1 and I go to my table, it's just going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. So instead, when I go to second window for table set, I'm actually going to change that to 0.1. And I might need to get even smaller to get more accurate answers, but we'll start with 0.1. Now I'm going to go back to my table, so I'm going to hit second and then go to my table. And notice now I have 0, 0.1, and so on. All right, so I have here, I'm going to start with 0.8. I know that the answer is somewhere between 0 and 1, so I'm going to start with 0.8, and I'll fill out this chart here. It's kind of unnecessary because we have the chart on the calculator, but once you clear out the calculator, the chart's going to go away. So I'm going to fill this out. I have negative 1.2 and negative 1.79. 0.7 is negative 1.2. Oh, sorry, it's negative 1.3. It's important. And negative 1.31. And I'm just going to fill the rest out. You'll see why. You won't always need to fill all of these out. So 0.6 is negative 1.4 and negative 1.04. 0.5 is negative 1.5 and negative 0.75. Negative 1.6 and negative 0.44. Definitely doing more numbers here than I need to, but you get the idea. Negative 1.7 and negative 0.11. So what I'm looking for, and let me actually erase something here. Let me get rid of that. We want to keep this organized. I'm looking for that solution between 0 and 1, and I want to find where these two numbers match up, are the closest. And if I look at 0.7, negative 1.3 and negative 1.31 are pretty close numbers. Now, obviously they're not exact because we're approximating solutions here. Sometimes it'll be exact, but this is an approximation. If you wanted to, you could go back to your table set and you could make this even smaller and change this to 0.01. That'll give you a more accurate solution. But for our purposes, I'm happy with this. I'm going to stick with that. So my solution is going to be this point right here. So we're going to say x is not equal. That's a big mistake. We're going to say x is approximately 0.7. Now note again that based on these two numbers here, it's not equal to exactly 0.7. It is an approximation. If it was equal, those would be the exact same numbers. So do, again, be aware of that, be careful of that. You're not technically done. I just wanted to go through one example. We also have another solution up here, somewhere between, right? This is between x equals 4 and x equals 5. So I would want to do the same thing. I'm going to have to figure out, using my calculator, what is that solution. So let's quickly do that. I'm not going to fill out the chart again. We're just going to use the calculator. So I'm going to go to second table set. And this time, my table start, I'm going to start this at 4. All right, because I know my answer is between 4 and 5. So I'm going to start it at 4, and I'm going to keep it at 0.1. Again, you can make that more accurate with a smaller number, but for these purposes, 0.1 will do. So now hit second again, go back to your table, and notice that we're starting at 4. And if I scroll through this, at 4 I have 2 and 1, which definitely is not very accurate. 2.1, I'm going to have to keep going. I'm starting to get a bit closer. 2.6, 3.6. So notice now the numbers are getting further apart. All right, so that's not good. If I go back, so if I'm looking at 4.6, 2.6 and 3.76 are drastically, they're getting further and further apart. So looking here, 4.5, I have 2.5 and 3.25, closer. 4.4 looks all right. 4.3, 2.3 and 2.29. That's pretty accurate. All right, those are pretty close. Again, we're looking at approximations here. So I'm going to say that my next solution, let's highlight that one in orange. My next solution, I'm going to say, is approximately 4.3. I could be more accurate than that using the calculator, but for our purposes, we are just going to come up with an approximation. The next video, I will show you how to find the exact intersection point and to get exact solutions. So when you're looking for graphs and tables, you want to plot them, really use the table to help you plot the points, and then make the tables more and more detailed and more specific with the table set. Make your table change smaller and smaller, and that'll give you more and more accurate answers. But being able to compare, and we talked about this in the last video, being able to interpret a graph and being able to use a table to help you further interpret that graph is going to become a pretty useful skill, and it'll save you a lot of working by hand. It'll save you a significant amount of time if you're able to do these two, if you're able to master these two skills. All right, so that's it for this video. Again, graph them. You're looking for the intersection points, and we're really just approximating here.